Okay, so let's start. So this is the second part of activity 2, of activity 1. By the way, I'll be giving you another activity mamaya, much shorter than this. Okay, so probability distribution. So number 4, and Babylin, a working student, is able to earn 1,000,000 pesos. She's thinking about investing her hard-earned money and choosing from 2 investments. So a software company or a hardware company, where the profits are detailed as follows. So basically, we want to treat profits as random variables. So let's name them X and Y. Profit from first investment, profit from second investment. So letter A, you're being asked to create a PMF. Yun na, pag sinabing PMF, para lang clear, lalabas sa exam yan yung salitang PMF. Probability distribution lang yun, yung table lang siya. Okay, so for letter A, you're gonna make the table. Basically, you're just gonna rewrite the question in tabular form. So, tanong lang dito, yung 5 million na yan, ano yung susulat ko sa value in X? 5 million o 6 million? Kasi 5 million yung profit eh. Pero 6 million na yung value ng pera ko. Actually, depende. How did you define? So, straightforward profit yung nakalagay. Let's define it as profits na lang. So, 5 million yan. 5 million yung kinita ng pera ko. I have 6 million in total. I gained 5 million. Okay, and apparently, that's 10% chance. The next, 30% chance of 1 million. And then, what about the last one? Is it going to be 0 or negative 1 million? What did you do? Negative 1 million, di ba? Kasi mawawalan ka. Negative profits. But the value of your money is going to be 0, right? So it depends, whatever you defined as ano. You will still arrive at the correct answer if you define X as, let's say, total value of your money, 6 million, 2 million, 0. But since we define them as profits, yeah, it's 5 million, 1 million, negative 1 million, with a probability of 60%. Okay, so the next investment, 3 million times 0, 20% chance, 40% chance of 6 million, and a 40% chance of losing that 1 million. So actually, yung letter C, pwede mo na agad sagutin dyan eh. Mukhang obvious na kung ano yung mas maganda, di ba? But first, we calculate expected value and variance for X and Y. Basically, it's a measure of the average profits for X and Y for the 2 investments and how varied the values are. Sige, ano mga sagot nyo dyan? Paki-fill up naman. Tingnan natin kung tama. At tingnan natin kung naaalala ko pa. 200,000 dito. I think that's right, yeah. Pakilista na lang. 2.6 million kay Y, expected value. Tapos yung variance, malaki talaga siya. Hindi ko alam kung sa inyo yung nag-message sa akin na parang na-shock siya na sobrang laki ng variance. Malaki talaga. Nag-square ka, diba? So 2.76. Yan, paniniwalaan ko na lang kung anong sagot mo, ha? Okay. 2.76 times 10 to the 12. I know na 10 to the 12 nga talaga yan. Malaki talaga. Kasi you're squaring millions. What about the variance of Y? 9.44. So I'm not sure if this is entirely correct. Hindi ko pa na double check. But yeah, it's gonna be really large. Okay. So given these, what would be your decision sa C? So can anyone answer this? Pwede kayo magsalita. Ano pipiliin nyo dyan sa dalawa? Kung kayo si Babylin. Edwin.
Sa obvious na rin sa PMF, pero sa sa Y, yung second investment kasi mas mataas rin yung expected value niya. Tapos mas maliit yung probability na you lose yung initial 1 mil na investment.
Yan, oo. So yun, di ba? The others, any other answers? Pwedeng Y din, but another reason why you chose Y? Wala ba ibang gustong sumagot? Sige, baka next time, baka next time pwedeng magtawag ako ng next activities, yung mga after first exam na, first long quiz. Baka pwedeng magpa-discuss ako sa inyo ng mga answers ninyo just to make sure you understand everything. Ayun, sige, Ezekiel.
Hello, sir. Actually, sir, kahit hindi na tayo mag-compute nung sa B, no? Actually, makikita mo naman dito na mas malaki yung loss natin sa investment 1 kaysa sa investment 2. Kaya pipilit yung investment 2.
Yun, di ba? So, investment 2 talaga. So, okay. Yun nga, sinasabi ko kanina, ano nga ba sabi ko? Yun, baka next time papresent ako sa inyo para may mga bonus din tayo. Bonus na lang yung mga recitation para hindi required, ha? Next time na. Tsaka para marinig ko rin yung iba. Yun, so thank you. So yeah, it's obvious. Mukhang mas okay si investment 2. Doon pa lang sa even if ganito kasi, pag tinignan mo yung variance niya, mas malaki yung variance niya, mas malaki yung variance ni Y. So mas erratic, mas malaki yung range ng values, but they revolve around a higher center eh. Sige lang, sagutin ko yung nasa chat later. So yun, dito ka naka-sentro. So bali kung i-chart mo siya, kunwari ganito, wait lang, paano ba yan? Sorry ha. Landscape. So let's say investment 1 is gonna be plotted in red. So ganyan. You'll characterize it as something like this. Kunwari yung value niya over time. Pero yung yung investment 2, mas varied siya. Pero mas mataas naman siya nakasentro. So even if mas mataas yung variance, it's not always gonna be parang negative sa kanya. So yung nakasentro naman siya around 2.6 million eh. So ganun, di ba? So yeah, that's correct. I think investment Y. But check ko yung mga answers ninyo. Yan. So may question ako na-receive sa chat. Bakit naging negative 1 million yung profit? Sige, magkaiba kasi yung profit tsaka total value ng investment. So dito, profit yung inaano natin. Magkano kinita mo? So ang reference point ko, yung 1 million ko kanina. So si 1 million ko na initial investment, dito kumita ng 5 million. Dito kumita ng 1 million. Dito nawala siya lahat. Zero na yung value niya. So hindi niya ni-retain yung value niya na 1 million. Pag sinabi mo kasi zero yung profit, hindi ka kumita, di ba? Ito nalugi ka pa. So yeah, that's why it's negative 1 million. Okay. Sige. So yun, zero wala kang kinita. Pero nasa iyo pa rin yung puhunan mo. Pero wala na eh. Nawala na yung puhunan mo dun sa scenario na yun. So, that's all right. Sige, next. Okay. Next tayo? Next number. So, medyo bilisan ko ng konti para matapos natin yung Just let me know na lang kapag masyadong mabilis or may questions. But number 5, in a certain hospital in Metro Manila, the average number of patients per day is 10. Find the probability that in a given day there will be an A or B. A, B. So first step lagi na ginagawa natin sa class is to define the random variable. For different distributions tayo from last meeting, laging ganito yung ginagawa ko, di ba? X equals what, X follows what, answer the questions. So first, X is the number of patients on a given day. And so, common mistake talaga ito na sinasabi ng mga tao, ang random variable ko is the average number of patients on a given day. Di ba alam mo ng 10 yung average? Hindi na siya variable. Hindi siya nagva-vary per day. So, it's gonna be the number of patients, not the average number of patients. Subtle difference, but you have to understand, they're different. Actually, hiningan kami ng contribution sa exam, may tanong akong ganun. Kaya observe, hindi siya average number of patients. It's the number of patients. Ha? medyo nitpicking, pero you have to understand that this is the one that varies every day, not the average. Kasi it's always gonna be 10. That's our assumption. So given the scenario, what would be the most appropriate distribution para i-explain siya? So we have 4 choices. Alin doon? Poson, di ba? So poson. So I have received some messages as well. Do you have any tips when choosing what distribution? So kung tips lang talaga yung hanap, pag may nakitang average, poson yan. Siya lang naman yung di ba? Hinihinga ng average. Pag nakakita ka ng some number na whole number, tsaka some number na may decimal, mukhang binomial, di ba? Kasi number of trials, yung whole number, yung may decimal is probability. Something like that. But hopefully you understand it in the context of the problem. Ayan din, poson lang yung palaging may specific date na ganyan on a given time. Kasi ang definition natin sa kanya, it's the number of occurrences of certain event on a given time period. So yun. Let's answer yung mga questions. Letter A, that's probability that X will be more than 4. So kaya ako talaga in-emphasize na pakigawa tong first step para dali siya basahin. Anong probability na yung number of patients on a given day mas marami sa 4, di ba? X kasi alam ko na ito siya. So that's gonna be probability that X equals 0 plus probability that X equals 1. Hindi, wait lang. Sorry. X is equal to 5, equal to 6, equal to 7, equal to 8, equal to 9, and so on. Kasi infinite yung domain ni Poisson, right? But since hindi natin pwede i-add yung mga we have to realize na ganito yung itsura niya. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. If we're interested with these numbers, some of those numbers, alam natin dapat ang sum nila is 1, diba? So 1 minus this. So 1 minus probability that X will be less than or equal to 4. I think yan yung sabi ni Lexi sa chat. So yeah, madali nang isolve yan. 1 minus probability na X equals 0. Medyo long cut talaga. Kasi kwento lang siguro, yung mga mas matanda pa sa akin, may mga table sila dyan. So hinahanap nila sa table. Ganun, ano yung probability na X equals 0, nakalista na lahat. So yun, hanapin talaga. Hindi ko na inabutan yun. Yan, okay. So answer, ano yung answer? Sagot ba? Ano yung answer natin dito? 0.9708. I think that's correct. Pagkakaalala ko. Alright, so next we're being asked the probability that X will be between 8 and 12. So it's important to include yung or equal to, especially kapag discrete. Later on sa continuous, may makikita kayong kakaiba eh. But yeah, it needs to be included kasi from 8 to 12, kapag wala yung or equal to, from 9 to 11 lang siya. So you have to add from X equals 8 up to X equals 12. Unfortunately, no shortcuts. And your answer will be, ba yan? Sige nga, pakisagot. Yan, tama yan. 0.5713. So you have to interpret it, 97.08% chance na you're gonna have more than 4 patients, 57.13% chance of having 8 to 12 patients, anywhere between 8 to 12. Okay. Sige, last number. Last number ay, oops, ayaw mo. Okay lang. Preference ko lang na ano ha. Hopefully masanay kayo sometime na 4 decimal places. Pero go lang, hindi naman mali kapag tinrankate nyo sa dalawa or ginawa nyo sobrang haba or ginawa nyo fraction. And pag decimal, 4 sana. Okay, so number 6. Among 10 officers of the student council, 7 favor a proposal to change their school uniform. If 4 of the 10 officers are selected at random, what's the probability that yan? A or A, B? So first, define the random variable. X will be, ako na muna ulit, number of selected students who favor the proposal. So question, talaga bang dapat selected students lang? Oo, doon lang tayo magbibilang. Question ulit, pwede bang yung hindi nag-favor sa proposal ang bilangin ko? Pwede rin. Sige, pag tinignan kasi natin si letter A, if we're counting the number of selected officers na favor the proposal, P of X equals 4 siya. But if we're counting the number of selected officers that do not favor the proposal, it's gonna be P of X equals 0, di ba? Parang sinabi natin na lahat nagfe-favor, eto, walang hindi nagfe-favor, which are the same, which is the same thing. So it depends again, step 1. So number 2, letter B, oops. Ayan. Ay, ano pala? Step 2, ano yung distribution? 4 choices, alin doon? Hypergeometric. Bakit hypergeometric? Kasi ang daming number. So hypergeometric siya. Yan, ang daming numbers na nakalagay. Yun yung maraming, yun din. Yun naman talaga hinanap. Pili ka ng tao, may pool ka ng tao, pili ka, di ba? So parang pagbunot ng card siya. Pag pwede nyo i-compare doon, hypergeometric. Pero yun, ang dami ring numbers na nakalagay. Siya lang naman yung 3 parameters, right? So parameters niya will be you're choosing from 10 people, you're choosing 4 out of them, where 7 are successes. 7 favor the proposal in the pool. Wala, nauubos kayo. So A. What's the probability that all 4 favor the proposal? So that's gonna be ano lang, from the 7 you choose 4, from the 3 na hindi successes you choose none, and then from the 10 you choose 4 as well. Which will give us, paki-fill in the blanks na, and 0.1667. On the other hand, letter B, how do you answer B? At least one of the 4 selected officers does not favor the proposal. So medyo magulo. May at least ka na, meron ka pang do not. Kaya 2 ways to do that. Actually, many ways to do that. One of my students dun sa section kahapon, dinefine niya ulit si X. Binilang niya yung mga ayaw ng proposal. Pwede naman, di ba? Sige, wait lang. 3C1 times X. Sige, wait. Sige, yung ginawa ng student ko kahapon, dinefine niya ulit. Sabihin natin Y. Y is the number of students who do not favor the proposal. So this will be P. Ano ba yung at least 1? Greater than or equal to, di ba? So ganun din. Ang mangyayari yung successes ko na yung 3 na ayaw ng proposal, hindi na yung 7. So hypergeometric pa rin siya, pero K is equal to 3. Right? So ganun, pwede yun. Pwede mo gawin yun. Or pwede rin naman na, basahin mo na lang yung tanong, at least one of the 4 selected officers does not favor the proposal. So basically, ayaw lang natin na yung scenario na lahat gusto nila yung proposal. Kuha ba? Ayaw lang natin masama yun. The scenario that P of probability that X is equal to 4. Ayaw lang natin mangyari yan. Yun lang ang ibig sabihin ng letter B. How did we know that? Well, in the context of the problem. So that's gonna be 1 minus P of X equals 4, 5/6. Sige, may nag-chat sa akin. Hindi ata ito yung sagot. Di ko sure. 3 combination 1, 7 combination 3, all over 10 combination 4. Actually, this is probability that X is equal to 3. So it's just one of the scenarios. So yung 5/6, ito ha. Bahala na kayo kung anong approach nyo. Multiple choice din naman yung exam, di ba? So wala rin kayong solution. I just hope na gets nyo naman, hindi kayo manghula sa exam. Kaya rin tayo may ganito. Okay, so clear na. Okay na tayo sa activity 1. Move on na tayo, kalimutan. Ay, hindi, wag kalimutan. Iwan na natin yan, si activity 1. Okay. So, since parang mga batak na kayo sa special discrete distributions, dagdagan pa tayo ng dalawa. Meron tayong geometric and negative binomial distributions. So, the same thing, they are both special discrete distributions but for different scenarios. So, 5 geometric distribution, and basahin lang natin, this is the distribution of the number of trials needed to get the first success in a binomial experiment. So, what's a binomial experiment? Nasa ano na natin siya, definition natin ng ano, di ba? Wait. Ayan, yung mahabang description na yan, n independent trials of a binary experiment with a constant probability of success P. Yun, ang binomial experiment. So basically, it's similar to, I don't know if nabanggit ko sa inyo yung basketball example, but let's just use that. Suppose X is the number of shots I need to take to make my first basket. Suppose ako ay 40% shooter, constant probability of success. We know that X is geometric. Bakit? Because we're counting the number of attempts before making my first success. So that's when geometric is appropriate. So instead of counting the number of successes, it's the number of trials. Baliktad. Okay. So with P is equal to 0.4, of course, if you want to imagine it in tabular form, how many shots do I need to take before I make my first basket? Pwedeng isa, pwedeng dalawa, pwedeng tatlo, apat, and so on. Kaya X equals 1, 2, 3, up to infinity yan. And each do have their corresponding probabilities. So, probability that X is equal to, let's say, anong probability na unang tira ko pa lang, pasok na kaagad? Yan ang ibig sabihin nito. So, it's a geometric random variable where it's gonna be 0.4 P times 1 minus P, 0.6 raised to X minus 1. X is equal to 1 minus 1, 0. So, 40% chance of me making my first shot. First basket agad siya. Pasok agad yung unang tira. Okay, so clear na to ha. Mamaya may example ulit. So the next one, pwede pala yun. Negative binomial distribution. So number 6 na pala ito. So the negative binomial distribution, it's the distribution of the number of trials needed to get the kth success in a binomial experiment. So again, it should be a binomial experiment. Ano yung sabihin nun? Para nung basketball example, kahit ilang ulit ko siyang gawin, walang pakialam yung attempt number 1 ko kay attempt number 2, independent. Gagawin ko siya n times and then success or failure lang. So basketball example na lang ulit tayo. X is the number of shots I need to take to make my third basket. So gusto ko makashoot ng 3, ilang tira ang ititira ko? Malamang-lamang bawal isa lang. So you should start with 3, 4, 5, and so on. Kaya ganun yung domain niya. Domain or support, yun yung terms. Alright, so X we know is negative binomial with probability equals 0.4 carrying over from the last example, and K, the number of successes equals 3. Saan ang galing yan? Gusto ko lang, example lang yan. Given yan, mga parameters. So how do we make use of it? What's the probability that I'll make my third basket in my 5th try? So suppose you want to get that, yung pang-5 tira ko pa yung ikatlong papasok. So that's gonna be X minus 1, that's 4. K minus 1, that's 3 minus 1, 2. And then, itong part na ito, I'm gonna be making 3 baskets times I'm gonna be missing, so 60% chance of missing, X minus K, 2 baskets, 2 shots, 3 made, 2 miss. So, ganun siya naka-structure. Kaya hindi ko rin siya masyadong minimemorize eh. Kasi, kuha yung gist. So, yeah, anong sagot dito? Meron bang sagot kanina? Kasi anong sagot dito? Paki-compute naman. 6 times 0.4 times 0.4 times 0.4. Ipaki-compute sa mga may calcu. Yan, 0.1382. So 13.82% chance that my fifth shot will be my third make. I'll be making my third basket on the fifth shot, fifth attempt. So okay. So let me know if you have questions. But before we move on dun sa next, example muna tayo, isa pa. Kasi yung next medyo mahaba yung normal. And so Rachel, a bank teller, knows from experience that 40% of customers entering the bank will make a cash withdrawal. So first sentence pa lang, alam ko na meron akong constant probability of success. And yung success ko is making a withdrawal. So it's a binomial experiment. Kada attempt is kada customer. Making a cash withdrawal is the success. So withdraw or hindi withdraw, yun lang naman. Wala akong pakialam kung balance o magde-deposit o kung anumang transaction ang gusto niya. Basta withdraw o hindi. So 0.4. Alright. So what's the probability that on any given banking day, the 10th customer to enter the bank will be the third customer to make a cash withdrawal. First customer to make a cash withdrawal. So you have to note na this is the third success. This is the first success. Diba? So yun, basically we're being asked, anong probability that x equals 10? Magkaibang definition ng x for A and B. Okay, so for A, x is, ano ba to? Sige, the x customer will make the third withdrawal. And given this, x will be negative binomial with parameters p equals 0.4 and k equals 3. Then you're gonna answer, what's the probability that x equals 10? And yan, iwan ko na sa inyo. Ayan, mga batak naman na kayo sa calcu. Kayang-kaya nyo na yan. May formula kayo dito. Plug in lang. X equals 10, k equals 3, p equals 0.4. So what about the next one? The first customer to make a cash withdrawal, yung 10th customer. So P of X equals 10 ulit siya. But X equals, and the X customer will make the first withdrawal. So X follows a geometric distribution kasi first success with P equals 0.4. So now question, can I use a negative binomial with K equals 1? Yes, that's precisely yung definition ni geometric. It's the negative binomial distribution with k equals 1. So yun din siya. First success, di ba? So kahit alin, that's correct. It's the same thing. And then you're gonna solve for p of x equals 10. That will be, ano to? 0.4 times 0.6 raised to 9. So whatever that is. Okay tayo? Anong oras na ba? Yan. May isang oras pa tayo. Maraming oras pa para dun sa next one. So ito medyo bagalan ko dito ha. Yan, continuous distribution. So we have two, uniform and normal distribution. And just parang preface, kailangan nyo ng kailangan nyo ng onting algebra at pre-cal ha. Kailangan medyo naaalala nyo pa. Kaya wag mahiya pag hindi nyo na naaalala. Pakisabi sa akin. Pero yun, my assumption is you remember a bit about those. Alright. So continuous distributions, difference niya from discrete distributions, well, they are both probability distributions. But for discrete kasi, kaya nating i-tabulate even if yung mga poson-poson na diniscuss natin, negative binomial, kaya pwede ko i-tabulate, di ba? Yung mga values niya. Hindi lang natatapos, extending infinitely. Kasi nga countable set yung outcomes niya. On the other hand, continuous, kunwari height X equals 160, 161. Ang dami sa gitna, infinitely many. So it's impossible to tabulate continuous distributions. So instead, we express them as functions. So alam nyo na naman function sila. Malamang-lamang kapag may function, may graph, di ba? So yun yung sinasabi ko na pre-cal or algebra. Meron kayong function, alam nyo na may graph, alam nyo yung i-graph. So yun yung characteristic ni continuous distributions. So we're gonna discuss two, uniform and normal distribution. The first one is not really that important, uniform, but it helps when it comes to understanding the problem ni normal distribution. So daanan na rin natin. So the uniform distribution, again, sanay na siguro naman kayo na same format naman yung mga slides ko. So meron kang distribution, ano yung mga parameters na ginagamit, di ba? So sa uniform, meron tayong dalawang parameters, A and B, the lower limit and the upper limit. P of X, by the way, for continuous distributions, ang terminology sa kanya, density. Hindi siya PMF. PMF is only for discrete. Density yung tawag dito. So the density for a uniformly distributed random variable is going to be 1 over B minus A, where X is any number from A to B. Familiar pa sa notation na yan. Ibig sabihin lang yan, yung X ay manggagaling lang from A to B kahit anong number doon. Hindi na siya discrete ngayon. Kaya nga lower limit and upper limit yung description natin sa mga parameters na yan. Okay, so anong pinagkaiba niya dun sa discrete uniform? Well, as of now, discrete uniform is discrete, this one is continuous. But let's go to the example. So LeBron commutes to his office in Makati. Each morning, he takes the bus from Cubao. And suppose that the driving time from Cubao to Makati is uniformly distributed. So it's already given, which falls in the interval 30 to 60 minutes. So yan. Gets na endpoint sila, diba? Lower and upper limits. So suppose LeBron has to report to his boss at exactly 8 a.m. If the bus he takes leaves the terminal at 7:15, what's the probability that he will be late? Okay, so we're gonna use the same steps. X is the LeBron's commute time. Yan. We know that X is a uniformly distributed random variable with A equals 30, the lower limit, and B equals 60. So the first two steps remain the same. The next step is same pa rin. Ano to? Probability that X is what? Ang hinahanap ko probability na malilate si LeBron. Ano yung nasa loob ng blanks? Nung parenthesis. And X is greater than 45. So that's correct. Kasi 7:15 siya magli-leave, 45 minutes para maging eksakto siya sa oras. If he takes more than 45 minutes, then he's already late. So one difference of this is that yung minutes na yan pwedeng 45.01, 45.0001. So continuous random variable siya, unlike the counts dun sa discrete, di ba? So continuous yan. How are we gonna solve this? That's the new problem. Kasi, di ba ang ginagawa natin kapag may greater than ng discrete, taga-add tayo. Paano natin gagawin yan ngayon? So, let's illustrate. So, first off, we have noted that since it's a function given by 1 over B minus A, where X comes from A to B, and alam natin si A and B, ano ba si A? 30, si B 60, di ba? So, it's just 1 over 30, where X runs from 30 to 60. Anong graph niyan? Given na mag-elicit talaga ako sa mga prior experience nyo. Anong itsura niyan? P of X equals 1 over 30. Ano ba yan? Parabola, line, squiggly, putol-putol. Line lang, di ba? Horizontal, vertical, o diagonal? Horizontal, right? So it's going to be right here. That's 1 over 30. If we define this point as 30, this one as 60, dyan lang siya may graph. Horizontal line siya. Actually, line segment. From 30 to 60 lang. Yun ang epekto nitong statement na to. So that's how the graph looks. Okay, saan nakuha yung 1? Aling 1? Etong nasa taas. Given yan, ganun talaga lagi. Laging 1 over. P of x equals 1 over b minus a lagi kapag uniform. Okay. So yan. We have this. We have this, yan lang. Yung sagot ng 1/3, ano yun? Yung sagot ng 1 over 30 is nasa y-axis. Ha? Si 1 over 30 nasa y-axis yan. Oo. Sige, meron pala akong kulang, sorry. Ito kasing x-axis ay x, ito ay p of x. As usual, x and y coordinate system. So yan. Since p of x ko ay 130, yan nasa y-axis talaga siya. All cases yan, laging nasa y-axis yan. Okay. Sorry, buti na point out mo. So, how do we answer that problem? May graph ka? Ano tong ano? Ano yan? Paano ko sasagutin yan? 'Di ba? So, what happens is, we plot 45 right here. And actually, we can enclose this. And what do we have? A rectangle, right? It's a rectangle. This particular problem, probability that x is greater than 45, you can actually translate it as what's the area under the curve from 45 and above. So, maging geometry problem siya. Equal yan. Etong, anong to? Tanong na ito, tsaka yung area ng rectangle na sinade ko. Gets naman kung bakit 45 to 60 lang kasi hanggang 60 lang. So yun. So actually if kayo ba yung mga mga nag-calculus, may calculus ba kayo senior high? Yung iba meron. Okay. Sige, mamaya natin para mukha kayong astig, gawin nating fancy yung Pero yan, just to simplify things, this problem becomes a geometry problem. What's the area of this rectangle? So it's easy because it's a rectangle. It's just product of the two dimensions, yung area, di ba? 1 minus 1 over 30. Wait lang ha. Actually, 1 over 30 na yung height. 1 over 30 ito. Origin yan eh. Origin yan. So yung height 1 over 30 units. Hindi lang drawn to scale kaya medyo pangit. Pero ito, ilang units to? Tama yung 60 minus 45. 15 units yan. So 15 over 30. Which makes sense. Half ng rectangle yung na-occupy, di ba? So it means, yun. So 1/2 or 50% of the time, Lebron will be late. So that's how you answer this. So ano yung sinasabi kong medyo fancy na way to phrase this? So this is one way to state it. This is another way, writing it as an area. But actually, it can also be written as integral from 45 to 60 ng 1 over 30 dx. So ganun. Ano ba yung integrals? Areas under the curve lang naman ang integrals eh. So what's the area under 1 over 30 from 45 to 60? Definite integral siya actually. So you're solving definite integrals without even doing integrals. Yun. Pero kalimutan nyo na yan. Wala tayong calculus dito ha. So clear na to? So with that, I'm gonna have some follow-up questions. How do we answer this one? Rectangle, hindi siya puro rectangle. Sinimulan lang natin sa rectangle para madaling intindihin. Sana madali namang intindihin na yung probability problem ko, area problem na ngayon. Yun pala, isang characteristic pa nito. Since probability yung inaaral natin, yung total area under the curve, total area niyang rectangle na buo, 1 dapat yan. Gusto mo i-prove 30 ito, 30 yung width na yan, 1 over 30 yung height, 30 times 1 over 30, 1, di ba? Dapat laging ganun. Kasi probability yung inaaral. So yan, follow-up questions, how do we answer these problems? Yan, so 4 na follow-up questions. So first, what's the probability that x is greater than or equal to 45? What do you think? Kanina kasi sabi natin 1/2. What about this? Do we add something? So actually parang wala kasi continuous siya. That's one thing unique about continuous distributions. You're adding a line. The area of a line is basically 0. So in the context of continuous distributions, etong question na ito, napakarami ng underline. Tsaka ito, tulad lang yan. 1/2 din yan. Okay. So the next one, what's the probability that x is equal to 45? Again, we can translate it as a geometry problem. Anong area ng line? Wala. So yan, hindi mo pwedeng sagutan to. Hindi yan tinatanong sa continuous. Bawal itanong yan, ha? Kasalanan namin pag tinanong namin yan. Yung probability that x is equal to something kapag continuous. So just disregard it. Just so we're clear lang, kaya ako sinabi. What about the next one? What's the probability that x is less than 45? So it still applies that the total area under the curve is 1. It's gonna be 1 minus yung kabaliktaran niya, di ba? 1 minus probability that x, saan nanggaling yung 1/2? Yung sagot natin kanina, kinopya ko lang. Kasi sabi natin tulad ito, tsaka itong first question na to. Okay? Kinopya ko lang kasi tulad sila. Okay, wait lang. Rewrite ko tong number 3. So the third follow-up question, probability that x is less than 45, you have to realize that it's just 1 minus its complement. Complement rule pa rin. Babalik tayo sa rules of probability. And we know that this is just 1/2. 1 minus 1/2. 1/2 pa rin. Makes sense, di ba? Kalahati niya, 1/2. Yung kabaliktaran niya, 1/2 din. So complements. Pag inad mo, 1 yung sum. So the last one is a problem na pakisagot. What's the probability that x is less than 35? So kasi 35 nandito, ang height ko constant na 1/30. Ang width ko ngayon, 30 to 35 lang, less than 35. 5 lang yan. So the answer will be 1/6. 5/30. Ox na? Sige nga, sample question. Masyado nang madumi. Wait. What's the probability na lang na x is greater than 50? Can anyone answer that? Probability that Lebron's commute time will be greater than 50. Bakit 1/3? Kasi ang width ko ay 10, ang height ko ay 1/30, 10/30, 1/3. So madali na, di ba? Kahit mental math na nga lang yan, hindi na natin daanan yung solutions. Hindi na tayo mag-drawing. So ox na. Okay na tayo kay uniform. So we're gonna complicate things a little bit. The normal distribution. So the normal distribution, ayan, napaka-important nito. At saka, I think this one has been discussed for sure, senior high. Yan, normal na yan, yung bell curve na yan. So what's so special about the bell curve? So first, it's a continuous distribution as well, like uniform. Parameters niya ay mu and sigma squared, the mean and the variance. Okay, so what's so special about it in a practical sense, ang dami kasing mga bagay na approximately normal. Characteristic kasi ni normal is bell curve siya. So again, this is the graph. Ito yung P of X, and yung probability, ito yung X. Ayan yung density, ayan yung value ng X. So ano bang isang random variable ang commonly na ginagamit nating example? Di ba si height? So si height, off the top of my head lang yun, approximately normal siya. How do we know that? Let's see. Anong probability na makaka-encounter ka ng 3-footer na person? It's very slim chance, right? So if x is height, dun sa lower end, mababa rin yung probability. Dun sa upper end, dun sa taller end, anong chance na maka-encounter ka ng 8-footer, right? So maliit din yung chance. most of us, sinama ko na sarili ko ha, nasa gitna, average. Average height. So kaya nandiyan yung peak sa gitna. So maraming bagay na ganyan. Ano pa ba? Meron ba kayong gustong example? Reaction time. Reaction times ha? Mouse click. Malamang-lamang, hindi ko pero malamang-lamang normal din 'yan. Yung napakabilis, minsan lang, yung average lang, marami, yung napakabagal, minsan din lang. Ayun, ganun. So ano pa bang magandang diyan? Actually, yung isang naalala ko, may naka-follow kasi ako sa mga meme page ng mga statistician eh. And typing speed, pwede rin. No? Konti lang yung mabagal, konti lang yung mabilis, marami nasa gitna. Pero yung isa nga, yung kwento ko sana, yung nakita ko sa meme page, yung sa gym, yung mga weights. Wait nga, baka pwede ko naman i-share screen. Normal distribution gym weights. Ay sos, ang bulok ko mag-type. Ayan, okay. Sige, wait lang ha. Ayan no. Ito, kung familiar kayo dyan, yung pang sa likod, pampakapal ng likod sa gym. So, ang unti nung gumagamit ng 5 kilograms lang, ang unti nung gumagamit ng 40, ang dami dun sa gitna. Smooth nga eh. Oh. Talagang palapad dun sa gitna. Panipis dun sa dulo. Yun, so, eto, mas kita. Oh. So yun, may na-receive pa akong answer. I think hindi pwede sa rolling dice. Kasi sa rolling dice, ano siya, di ba? Bukod sa discrete siya, ay uniform yung probabilities tulad-tulad. Hindi siya normal. Ang normal kasi nagva-vary talaga yung probabilities. Minsan mataas, minsan mababa. Okay. So yun, yun naman yung gist. Bakit siya inaaral? Kasi a lot of things, you can approximate them to be normally distributed. We're trying to explain probabilities of certain events happening, right? So a normal distribution fits a lot of things. That's why it's important to study it. So ano ba yung characteristics pa niya besides being a bell-shaped distribution? So one of its characteristics is that it's symmetric with respect to the mean. So this line, yan yung x equals mu. Hinahati niya yung curve na yan into two equal parts. So since probability, total area under the curve is still 1. So yun na, inintroduce na natin yung probability problem as a area problem, right? So area problem din to. So let's say the probability that x is less than mu, what's the area below mu? And since ang nabanggit ko, mu is also coinciding with the median, that's one property ni normal, 50% yan for sure. Kahit anumang mu yan, kahit ano man yung mean ng distribution, alam ko 50% nasa left niya. And subsequently, 50% din nasa right niya. Sure yan, lagi, all the time kapag normal. So another property of the normal distribution is that symmetric to the left and right symmetric. Tapos isa pa ay asymptotic siya. Asymptotic to the x-axis. What do we mean by asymptotic? It actually extends infinitely to the left and infinitely to the right, but it never touches the x-axis. Okay? So yun yung properties niya. So moving on, baka matanong nyo, ano ba yung ano yung density niya? Binigay ko yung sa uniform, ba't di ko sinulat yung density ni normal? Density kasi ni normal, medyo intimidating siyang makita. Ito siya 1/2 pi sigma e to the negative x minus mu quantity squared over 2 sigma squared. Yan, so medyo pangit siya tingnan. Pero hindi nyo kailangan i-memorize yan. Alam nyo lang dapat na bell curve yan. Try nyo i-desmos yung function na yan. Bell curve lalabas. Yun lang naman ang ibig sabihin ko rito. But, ano yung domain? Laging may domain, di ba? Kanina from A to B lang. Assumption is the domain will be all real numbers. Kaya when I said that everything is approximately normal, hindi niya kasi na-follow lahat. Kunwari si height, wala namang negative na height, wala namang 1 million footer na height, di ba? So roughly lang, pina-follow niya lang yung shape ng bell curve. But eto yung density talaga ni normal distribution. So questions? See, next question kasi is paano tayo kukuha ng areas under the curve? Hindi na rectangle yan. Hindi naman tayo mag-i-integrate. Diba? So, may methods. I think na encounter nyo naman na yung z-table, no? Yun ang gagamitin natin. So, let's answer an example na. I think this is gonna take all of our time na, this example. So, assuming systolic blood pressure, let's call it SBP. Normal healthy individuals is normally distributed. So, X is SBP. X is normal, we know that. The mu is 120, sigma is 10, or sigma squared equals 100, whatever you want. So that's it. So letter A, what's the area of the curve, or what's the probability that I'll be picking a normal healthy individual with less than 110 mmHg na SBP? So we can write it as P of X less than 110. Again, it's an area problem. So let's solve it. So we set it up first, P of X less than 110. You may or may not draw. I find it helpful when teaching to draw. So we know that X is normally distributed, follows a bell curve distribution, where the middle part is the mean, 120. So we know that 110 is somewhere here. And we're looking for the area to the left of 110. So true or false, less than 50% yan. True, di ba? We know that the area to the left of 120 is 50%. Mas nasa left pa siya. So mas mababa yan sa 50%. Pag mas mataas sa 50% yung sagot nyo, di medyo kabahan kayo. So yan, but this is the problem. An area problem. So we introduce new steps for specifically for the normal distribution. The first step is to calculate the z-score of 110. And calculate the z-score of 110. What's the z-score? So z-score is just x minus mu over sigma. So yan, kasama yan sa mga formulas na ililista. So x minus mu over sigma, we know mu, we know sigma, x is yung 110 na yan. So what's the z-score of 110? That's 110 minus 120 over 10, which gives us -1. So this problem becomes probability that the z-score will be less than 110, less than -1. Ko-convert mo ito to z, ko-convert mo ito into its z-score. So bale parang ganito siya. Pwedeng i-define ko siya as x, pwedeng i-define ko siya standardized yung tawag, standardized as z. So this becomes 0, 120 minus 120 over 10, 0. 110 minus 120 over 10, that's gonna be -1. Okay pa ba? Alright, so how do we interpret that -1? So -1, it's one standard deviation to the left of the mean. Yun ang ibig sabihin niya. So kapag +1, one standard deviation away from the mean. One standard deviation means 10 units kasi, di ba? So it's 10 units to the left. So yeah. Yung sigma po ba ay mean? Ang mean ay wait. Si sigma ay given lagi yan. Ayan, nakalagay naman. Sigma is 10 mmHg. Ang sigma ay standard deviation yung tawag. Basta laging given yan. Okay, so yun, buti na tanong mo para tuloy-tuloy tayo. Okay, so what if ang z-score ko is 2? Positive 2. It means it's 2 standard deviations away from the mean. To the right, di ba? So yun. So basically, ang gusto ko lang i-point out, lahat ng values sa x-axis na yan, merong corresponding z-score. imagine nyo kasi, let's say, paano ba to? Let's say you have a normal curve na, you have this example, then you have another example na height naman yung ginagamit. Mean is 170. Sigma is 112, kunwari. Another example, anong procedure dyan? Kailangan ko mag-standardize. Kailangan ko laging i-convert into z-scores. Sige na nga, masyado ko ata kayong ginugulo. Basta gawin yung z-score. Laging ganun. Pag normal, gawin yung z-score. So yan naka-z-score na siya. P of z equal less than -1. Next step is gamit tayo ng z-table. Kung naka-on yung mga browser nyo, paki-search yung ztable.net, pakigamit na lang yun. Ztable.net. Maglalag ulit ito sorry. Paano ginagamit si ztable? Ayan yung ztable. Si question lang, since may oras-oras naman tayo, may nakagamit na sa inyo nito? Or meron na lang bang hindi pa nakagamit nito? Anong yes? Nagamit na, okay. Yung mga hindi pa nakagamit, meron? Pakisabi na para tingnan natin kung okay. Okay, lalimot na. Talaga namang dadaanan pa rin natin. Okay, so yun, may mga sumagot naman. Pa-refresh. I-refresh natin yan. So actually, kwento lang. Ayun, may mga schools na hindi na talaga ginagamit to. Medyo ang dami na nating teknolohiya, may mga computer na, di ba? So yun, we don't actually need to do this, pero this is still how we do it in the Philippines, even if sa UP, ganyan namin ginagawa. Yan, pero kailangan alam natin kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga yan. Yun naman yung gist niya. Okay, so the z-table gives us yung mga values sa gitna na yan, yung mga hindi naka-bold, probabilities siya, area to the left. Yan, nakalagay naman sa taas. Areas to the left. Yan. Corresponding values which are less than the mean are marked with a negative score in the z-table and represent the area under the bell curve to the left of z. Okay, so ano yung z-score natin na nakuha? -1, di ba? And gusto natin kunin yung area to the left ng -1. So how do we use the z-table? So the z-table, you're gonna look for your z-score dito sa, ayan, saan nakita yung cursor? Nasa first column and the first row, the topmost row. Ang binibigay kasi sa atin ng first column is the ones digit and the tenths digit. Tenths, I mean the first decimal place. So, ang topmost row, binibigay sa atin yung hundredths digit. So, it's a very crude way of getting probabilities. Nakalista. Buti nga, hindi na tayo naglilista dun sa mga discrete. Imagine nung unang panahon, kapal-kapal ng mga ano nila, no? May Poisson ka na table, may hypergeometry ka na table. Ngayon, eto na lang. Balang araw, mawawala din yan sana. Okay. So yun, hinaharap natin is -1.00, di ba? So we're gonna look at this row, -1.0. And then this column, the first column. Saan nakita yung cursor ko yan? And the first column, kasi -1.00. So what's the intersection? It's gonna be 0.15866. Yan yung area to the left ng z equals -1. So yun na yung sagot. Tapos na agad tayo. Diba 2 steps lang? Ang dami kong pinagsasabi pero 2 steps lang. Once na set up mo na ito, step 1 would be convert it to z-scores. Next is to look for the answer in the z-table. So 0.15866 or about 16% or 15.87% of all people have SBP less than 110. Yung first row lang titingnan. Sige, kunwari ganito ha. What's the probability that z will be less than -1.062? Sige, 4 decimal nyo yung final answer. Para lang same. Para wala nang bagong rule. Okay, so ayan, may tanong sa akin si, anong pangalan? Wait lang. Anong mga pangalan nyo? Bautro. Joko. Ayan, nalala ko ng mga pangalan nyo. May tanong si Joko. Yung first row lang ba titingnan? Let's try answering this. Kunwari na-convert na natin sa z-score. Z-score niya is negative 1.062. First of all, our z-table is limited. Napaka-crude way nga of solving probabilities yan. So we have to round off. 1.06 lang. 2 decimal places lang ang kaya niya. Kahit na yung z-score ko not exactly negative 1.06. So how do I find it here sa z-table? So it's gonna be the row labeled negative 1.06. So the row, oh my God. Etong column labeled 0.06. So ito siya. 0.14466 ba? Dali nga. 0.1446. Oo. Kuha naman, yun. Ganun yung mangyayari, bale. Joko, nasagot naman question mo. Yun lang lagi yung first tsaka first column tsaka first row. Sila yung z-scores. Lahat ng nasa gitna probabilities yan. Ayun, nag-lag. Sorry. Hayaan mo siya mag-load. Sige, yun. So, since that's clear, 2 more examples, then we're done. So, 2 more examples. The next one is, let's answer letter B. So, letter B, I think this should be a bit quicker. What area of the curve is above 140 mmHg? Patay akong cam ha, para naglalag ako eh. What area of the curve is above 140 mmHg? So that's the probability that x will be greater than 140. Again, it's an area problem. So p x greater than 140. We have 120 at the middle. 140 is somewhere here. We want to find the area to the right. Z-score 2, oo. Area to the right. So, first step, we convert them into z-scores. Pwede na yan. Ano na lang natin? Mental na lang. 140 minus 120 over 10. 2 ang lalabas. I don't mind if you don't show that computation, yung computation ng z-scores. Kasi meron pa kayong activity eh. So, meron pa kayong kailangan ng solution. Kaya ito nyo na isama. So, 2. Z greater than 2. Problem is, ganon. Yung binibigay sa atin sa z-table, puro kasi siya areas to the left. Diba? Ayun, ine-emphasize ko yun na puro areas to the left lang yung meron siya. So, pag tinignan ko yung probability sa z-table na na-associate sa z-score na 2, itong ibibigay niya sa akin, shade ko ng blue. Ito. Area to the left niya ibibigay. So what do? We have to realize na total area under the curve is always gonna be 1. So this will be equal to 1 minus probability of z less than 2. Less than or equal to doesn't matter, continuous. So right now, we can already look for this quantity dun sa z-table. Ano ba yung probability associated with 2? Area to the left of 2, positive 2. So, meron tayong negative part, meron tayong positive part sa baba na ayaw mag-load. Ayan, nag-load na. So, positive 2, ayan. Here, positive 2, 0.00. So, ito, yung first column, 0.97725. So 1 minus 0.97725, that will give us 0.02275 or 0.0228. Okay? So 2.28%, etong gusto nating sagot. 2.28% yan. So maliwanag tayo, okay yun. Kayang mag-compute ng areas to the left, areas to the right. You just have to make use of that probability na 1 minus lang lagi. yung left tsaka right. Sige. So last, matapos tayo ng medyo maaga-aga. We're done with A, done with B. Let's answer D. Skip na natin si C muna. What value of systolic blood pressure is at the 90th percentile? This one is a bit different kasi we're given the probability. So we're not looking for probabilities dito. So how do we illustrate it? Given this is the distribution of systolic blood pressure, the middle is at 120. What value of K will be at the 90th percentile? Ano ba 90th percentile? You're higher than 90% of the distribution. So if we want to write it this way, we know that the probability, hindi siya x greater than 90 ha. Ang probability areas, di ba? So may sagot tayo 90%. Area to the left niya ay 90. Meron tayong area, 90 alam natin. We don't know K. We solve for K. So that's the problem. It's a different problem. But we're gonna use the same tools and the same steps. So okay. So solve for K. First step, same thing. Gawin mong z-score. Hindi ko alam yung K, so hindi ko ma-simplify. Pero K minus 120 over 10 siya. Di ba? Mu yung 120, sigma yung 10. Equal to 90. Next step, pakitingnan sa z-table. So ano bang meron sa z-table? Sa z-table, nasa gitna, yung mga hindi naka-bold, probabilities silang lahat. So anong z-score ngayon yung nagbibigay ng probability na 90%? Baliktad siya. So instead of looking at the first column in the first row, we look at the middle. Then we trace kung anong z-score siya. So since crude way nga ito, estimates lang tayo. So somewhere here, nasa gitna ng 0.89973 tsaka 0.90147. Nasaan si 0.9 nandito? Yan, yung cursor ko yan. 0.9, di ba? Nandyan si 0.9. So what do? We just select the 1 meter. Ano ba yung mas malapit? Itong 1.28 o 1.29? Ano yung mas malapit? Parang 2.8 yata. Actually, doesn't matter sa akin kung may solutions, pero sa multiple choice, doon tayo sa 2.8. So 1.28 ha. Mas malapit si 0.89973 kaysa kay 0.90147. So next, alam na natin yung z-score. E di ba ito yung z-score, yung k minus 120 over 10. So k minus 120 all over 10 is equal to 1.28 positive. Naglag yata, sorry. Hello? So we just solve for k minus 120 is equal to 12.8. K is equal to 132.8. Don't forget the units, mmHg. So this score is 132.8. 90% ng mga blood pressure systolic mas mababa sa kanya. Or pwede rin natin siya i-phrase na siya yung cut-off para maging top 10% ka. Top 10% ka ng mga high blood, parang ganun. Yan yung cut-off. So, all right. So that's it. Do you have any questions?